Hi, this is Mr. Evans. This video looks at strategy and communication and the value of communications in implementing a strategy. So again, we've set our mission statement, we've undertaken the audit of where we are as a company. Once we've set our objectives and created our strategy, to implement the plans, obviously it's really important we can communicate those plans to our workforce. So what the purpose is of communication in terms of strategy? Well, number one, we need to set the vision for the organisation. Without employees knowing where they're trying to go and where the company is trying to go, the strategy won't really make any sense. You know, if you're setting off on a journey and you don't know the destination, then how do you know if it's the right road to take? If you don't know where you're going. So it's really important that you clearly communicate to your employees the vision for the organisation so they know where they're going. The purposes of communication is to accurately assess the current strengths and weaknesses and opportunities and threats in the environment. And to do that, you're going to need to speak to the workforce so that they can understand where the organisation currently is. If they know the vision, they know where the organisation is trying to go. So that will ensure that the strategy is understood, or it won't ensure that the strategy is understood, but you've got a better chance of, if you've communicated with the workforce about where they're going, if the workforce understand that you've done a good audit of the organisation's current strengths, weaknesses, opportunities and threats in the external environment, then there's a better chance that that strategy will be the right strategy and people understand it. So we'll have a look at methods that businesses use to ensure that the strategy is understood in a minute, but that's obviously a key reason for communicating the strategy. Once we've communicated the strategy, we can set clear targets for the organisation, for the different functional areas within that organisation and individuals. Good communication, the purpose of communication in terms of strategic implementation. Once we've done all of this and people are clear about where they're going and what their role to play is and how their individual targets will help, we then need to monitor the progress towards those targets and adjust the strategy if necessary. Okay, so we're not going to be able to monitor progress unless we're communicating with our workforce and finding out how they're getting on with implementing the strategy. And if the strategy isn't working for some reason, then it needs to be adjusted in order that it can work. We can then reward and motivate employees if we are on course. All right, and that is done. You know, how are we going to know who to reward and how to motivate people unless we're communicating? And you know, receiving Employee of the Month award is a form of communication. It's a form of communication to everyone, saying, "Look, this person's done really well," etc. Okay, and you know, another purpose of communication is to make sure that we've established our brand identity, our unique selling point, and we're communicating that to our customers. So in terms of strategic implementation, communication is going to be really important. So how can we communicate a strategy? Well, the annual general meeting is a popular place. That's the meeting between the shareholders and the management of a company, and that way the management can set out the vision that they have for the company and basically run their ideas past the shareholders who get a vote. In terms of addressing staff, okay, that can be done through a keynote address or presentation. Steve Jobs was a big fan of the keynote address. He probably did plenty of internal ones at Apple. You can have a look at some of the his launching of the iPhone is a very, shows you what a skilled speaker he was, and that's a good way of communicating a strategy. So that's kind of a keynote address presentation. It's kind of a verbal means of presenting a strategy. We can also present our strategy, communicate our strategy through written documents like an annual report, which is released every year. We're going to have interdepartmental meetings, so meetings between finance, marketing, etc., to make sure that we are on course to achieve our strategy, and make sure that everyone is pulling in the same direction. Then we've got the performance management meetings with individuals that will help us to ensure that the individuals are on course to achieve the strategy. And of course, job descriptions explain what people will do is a good way of communicating the strategy and how they're involved. Their job contributes to the achievement of that strategy. So here are some different types of communication, different departments, from a supervisor to a subordinate, laterally to a co-worker. The key thing is that the communication needs to run up and down an organisation. It needs to come from the top in order that people are aware of the strategy and know their role, and communication also needs to go up from the bottom upwards so that the management can assess whether or not that strategy is being successful and whether or not it will achieve their goals, and the extent to which it needs adjustments as the organisation goes along. Just one quick quote here: the result of bad communication is a disconnection between strategy and execution.